flowing conversation, bro. So we're already live. So
we're live.
Okay,
cool. We're fucking hopping into it. Marcus, if we raise our finger, we're not telling you to stop. It's for me and Jason to know not to cut each other off.
Gotcha.
Welcome to the Deal Champs podcast. We're a little bit behind, so I just started it. I'm your co-host, Stratt Daddy. We have the master of hair here, Mr. Jason Pritchard. Hair's not out today. And then we have a special guest, the master of golf, Mr. Marcus. I like to call him the master of golf. I send him a DM every time he posts because he doesn't work. He only golfs.
The master of bogey golf, that's for sure.
There you go.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course, bro. Real quick about myself. We've scaled 2 different companies to 7 figures. We have a 7-figure real estate portfolio. Right now we're documenting. I haven't really been documenting as much, the 0 to 1 million challenge, but we're still doing it. Just posting that much social media content is fucking exhausting. And we have the master of hair, Mr. Jason Pritchard.
Too busy to do my hair today. Just been running around closing too many deals. So no hair today. Got the hat on. Thank you guys for joining us. I am your other co-host, Jason Pritchard. Backstory on me is I worked in corporate America for 15 years, was very unhappy with my job, unhappy with my life. We burned all the boats in 2014, started investing in real estate full-time and have not looked back since. We've done north of 500 deals at this point, and we did some math recently just with this big acquisition. I think we're going to talk a little bit about it today, this warehouse deal that we bought. We're just north of $17 million for portfolio value for our real estate portfolio. So very proud of that. As always, we say on this podcast, we want to give you guys as much real world application as we possibly can. So all value, no fluff, try to learn from our mistakes and get to where you want to go faster. And I'm really glad to have Marcus on here. This should be a cool episode. We've done a bunch of deals together. He's in one of our neighboring markets. He's got some really cool stuff that he's working on with large development deals. So it'll be cool to share that with the audience today.
Awesome. And then we have the master of golf, master of Modesto, Mr. Marcus Bazan. Is that how I pronounce your last name, bro?
Bazan, but you're good.
Bazan sounds sexier.
When I get cold called, that's how they pronounce it, so you're fine. Yeah, so just a little bit about me. I started real estate when I was 21. 2016, I got my license. First generation realtor, just kind of dove in head first and lost my job my first year in real estate. So kind of like Jason said, burned the boats, but wasn't really a good employee to begin with. So that's why I work for myself now. And so started doing real estate, met my business partner, started learning about wholesaling a couple of years in. Was kind of on the board of directors for our local association. I was on the California Association of Realtors. I received the Rising Star Award in 2018 for the California Association, and just did a lot of work on that end with just being a realtor, and started wholesaling, I believe, the end of 2019. So started wholesaling, met my business partner at a conference similar to the Deal Champs. Did an event in LA, went out there, and couple months later connected with somebody that had a deal, and now he's my business partner. So we've probably done about closer to 300 deals now year to date, from 2019 till now. We scaled our company. We have a portfolio, I think close to $4 million, just about 12, 13 doors throughout California, mostly in the Central Valley here locally. And we started fix and flipping in 2020. That's been a really good thing for us. So just kind of do everything. We buy rentals, we wholesale. And like Jason said, we also do affordable housing developments. Not ourselves. We work with a light tech developer. So just started doing that over the last 2 years, and it's been very eye-opening. So really grateful to be a part of that with Alberto, our partner. And that's just a little bit about me.
Do you think that your affordable housing is going to skyrocket now that all these fires happen in Southern California? Like, truly?
We actually have we're heavy on Pasadena right now. I got off the phone with a seller out there. So yeah, I think that, the federal and state subsidies are going to start trickling in. So locking up deals to build low income housing is going to be detrimental. There's going to be a lot of people displaced with the fires. So I would say it will explode in LA County over the next 2-3 years for sure.
I mean, at what point would you even start marketing to those people? Because I had someone message me saying, should we start marketing down there? I was like, no. Like, there is no positive outcome that you would get from marketing to those people now. But at the same point for you, bro, like there's going to be like the best word, like tranches of land, essentially for you to buy up and develop.
Yeah,
So like
Mo said it best. He says everyone's a landowner now in LA. Oh my God. Everyone. Yeah. Well, when it comes to marketing, I think it depends on, what kind of person you're going after. Like, what's your box of marketing? Residential homeowners that just lost their homes, I would say probably not market, just like the Maui fires that happened. I think it was last year or the year before. You don't want to market to people that are just dealing with a lot of grief right now and just a lot of hysteria and just going through a lot. So I would say best practices not to reach out to those people en masse with texting and calls and mail. But with the affordable stuff, we go after commercial. So a lot of the things that I'm targeting are maps. They're basically commercial buildings or land that haven't been taken up by the fires. So those sellers are probably more privy to sell before seeing the aftermath of what happened. So I'd say it's a little different for the marketing that we're doing right now based on residential and commercial.
Let's give some context, dude, because I think you have a really cool story. You've gone on a pretty fast growth trajectory.
Yeah.
And a lot of people I know in our community and that follow us are either newer getting started. We have lots of agents just because I'm licensed, been licensed. We have lots of people in that network. And you're kind of one of those people that got started licensed and really found a lot of success, both as an agent and then quickly as an investor, right? So what did that trajectory look like for you? Because I know for you too, you've probably talked with lots of licensed real estate agents that just can't make the transition they want to. Like, what was it about you and your journey that allowed you to kind of go in, be licensed and say, hey, what's this wholesaling thing? What's this flipping thing? What drew you to that? And why do you think you were able to find success early on?
Yeah, I think for me, I can't speak to everybody, but when I thought I was kind of top of my game and I was the number one sales agent in my office, I think obviously like anyone that gets into real estate, you have to be self-motivated and go after it. So I was going after a lot of pre-foreclosures that were in the paper. I was going after short sales, people that have negative equity, just because I wanted to learn some of those, how does a short sale work? How does a pre-foreclosure, the trustee sale, listing it before the auction, postponing the auction. But I was just doing it from a realtor standpoint. And it wasn't until I started, I made, I think 150,000 in commission. And I bought my first home. I had seen on social media that there was a kid who was 18 years old who had just made 7 figures who wasn't licensed, but they were in real estate. And it was Alex Sines out of Arizona.
Okay.
And I was just like blown away. Like, this guy is 10 times bigger than me, 4 or 5 years younger. I was curious. I think a little bit jealous. Like, man, how is this kid doing? I was curious and jealous and all the emotions. And I was just more than anything, I was like, man, if he could do it at 18, I know I could do it. And so I paid the money to go to that event, and it just opened my eyes. Their acquisitions team, I didn't know what wholesaling was. I think a lot of agents get backlash from their brokers because their brokers don't understand it. They think of it as a liability, like an assignment contract. You're making 10, 20% of the property value on an assignment fee versus just listing it. And the broker doesn't get any sort of commission cut from that. So brokers do not. And then most escrow offices that I would deal with, like Old Republic Title, and I won't name all of them, but a lot of them didn't insure assignment fees. They wouldn't deal with them. They said it's illegal. One lady that I did a lot of deals with listings, she called me and said, why are you, it was my first deal. That was a big mess. It was fraud. The junior was trying to sell the senior's property, but she calls me and says, hey, your assignment fee is like 40,000. Why are you making so much money? This doesn't look right. Started just ragging on me, and I had to find a new escrow office that would deal with it. So I think those are some of the things that most realtors get stuck in. They get, the miscommunication or misinformation from their brokers. They don't know what escrow office is. They just don't know where to start. I think that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think it's, I agree. The business model from a traditional brokerage is just not really geared and set up to do anything but teach the agents on how to do more listings. And if that's what you want to do, and that's your goal, and you want to be the number, then great, good for you. You know what I mean? But I always got into the business. This is just me speaking personally, where I knew investing was the area of real estate that really intrigued me. I wanted to spend more time doing that. And I think if you're one of those agents that are out there, you've got to find a home base or a brokerage or a broker that understands your business model and is going to be willing to work with you. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with what we're doing. It's just you have to understand the legalities of everything and be with a team that gets that too. So that's good advice, bro.
And
Did
also,
you end up leaving your brokerage?
I know Jason doesn't care if I do or not, but I actually signed up under Jason with Real Brokerage. The brokerage that we were with, they were not wanting to deal with our commercial stuff, the LIHTC development. Yeah. We get paid commission from those, and it's big commissions. And they were just like, our E&O insurance doesn't cover that. They basically told us to leave the brokerage. Can you guys
That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, my computer screen went off. So I approached Jason because we've done some deals and we've been a big supporter of Deal Champs. Just love what you guys are doing. And I got in touch with Real Brokerage and, you know, we kind of vetted them, but we decided to sign up with them until we get our own brokerage license. We're working in that, but I love it. Real, you know, you have a great structure with what you got going on at Real, Jason. So props to you.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
Easiest money-making facility if you're an agent I've ever seen in my fucking life. If you're not a part of Real Brokerage and you're a real estate agent, I feel like you're leaving the most passive income of your life on the table.
And here's what I'll tell you, dude. Yeah, like Real is the right fit if that's what your business model is. And everybody needs something different, dude. And that's what I think. I think self-awareness is really important. And some people want, like, I need to be in the office. I need somebody there that can hold my hand through everything. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if you value that, there's lots of good spaces and things out there for you. It's just, you got to figure out what's the right fit for you. And I think that's the most important thing. It's at the end of the day, it's your business and you've got to figure out where to go. That's going to actually propel you closer to where you want to go. So yeah, dude, that's good. That's awesome, man.
How did you even get started in these like commercial developments? Cause you started posting about them 2 years ago.
About 2 years ago. Yeah. About 2 years. 2022 is when we kind of started. I was trying to figure out how can we wholesale a deal to this developer? And so I was kind of still in that wholesale, like, hey, like, what if I got a deal under contract? Your developer bought it. I lined up the terms, you know, just kind of did a double close or assignment. It's federal funds, it's federal subsidies, it's county subsidies. It's audited by the IRS because it's a LIHTC development does not make money. It's the only sort of multifamily that's penciling right now with the rates, but it's a tax strategy. That's what affordable housing really is. It's just to offset liability. So anyways, when we started talking about it, it was Alberto, me and Alberto. So when I started in real estate in 2016, me and him were in the same real estate office, just as residential realtors. We became good friends. And he kind of went the development route with getting connected with this developer and started doing that. So I would just kind of see his social media with the development stuff and he would just find sites for them. And we kind of connected in 2022 and he said, hey, I love what you're doing. You guys thrive in finding off-market deals. I'm having a hard time sourcing off-market deals. Could we connect and figure out how can you find us off-market opportunities? And we both get paid with our licenses, these commissions. So that's kind of how it started.
How would you, this stuff is really interesting. And I think there's lots of people that are wired kind of how the three of us are, where we look at these big opportunities and say, why not me? How do we do that? Right. And then there's this knowledge gap that needs to get bridged, right? We've got to be able to first believe that we can actually do it, but then we've got to actually figure out how to do it. Right. So right. In layman's terms, if you were explaining this to, you know, an elementary school kid, how would you break it down in the easiest way, Marcus, and explain what these development deals that you're doing? Like what's the easiest way to explain it? What are the moving parts and pieces? How does it all work?
Sure. So So you have your market rate developers. Those are guys that will buy land to then entitle for, let's say, a 50-unit apartment complex. So they're going to go to the bank. The bank's going to look at, okay, what's the future rents? What's going to be that's how they're going to determine the future value. And they then say, okay, well, the rents support the debt servicing income, the debt servicing ratio of 1.25. So as long as your rents can support the new debt, we can then lend you money based on the LTV. They got to put down 20, 30%. So it has to pencil because it has to cash flow. Now, with the rates being so high, most market rate developers just don't want to build. They would rather entitle it and flip it. Now, with LIHTC, it's completely different in the sense that it's a tax strategy. So basically, a LIHTC developer is somebody that will find a piece of land, let's say like in San Mateo County. And, whenever you go to the voting ballot and you see on the voting ballot, there's like measure 8 that says there's going to be a tax on cigarettes and part of that tax will go towards affordable housing. You don't know what that is, but it goes into a fund that then becomes, after it reaches let's say $10 million. So a LIHTC developer can get a piece of land in contract, and then they could then go and try to apply for these subsidies. So they want to get the subsidy for the county subsidies that they are available, like with the Measure 8 I spoke of. There's also the federal subsidy of getting 30% of the project met. And what you're doing is you're building your capital stack. You're trying to find all these funding sources. And you can go to the website. You can go to the what is it called? The NOFA. It's called the Notice of Funding Availability Calendar. And there's all these different programs. And what they'll do is they'll get all those funding subsidies in order. And then what they'll do is when they do get the vouchers for the site from the federal government will then allocate it to the state. The state has what's called a tax committee allocation. So they will then determine, okay, based on 1,000 applications, which of these sites is going to be awarded the tax credits, because there's a lot of competition. So you have to meet certain metrics. It has to be within a census tract. It has to be within high resource areas. It has to be within difficult development. So there's all these maps we have to look at to ensure that we're going to be in a great position to get those subsidies awarded to us. Now, when all that's said and done, they get everything awarded. Once they start developing the property, based on the funding program, like our developer that we work with focuses on a large family. So this is just, I want to put this out there for people that are thinking about entitling their properties. Just because you can squeeze 75 1-bedroom, 1-bath units on a piece of land doesn't mean that it's going to work for the developer, because the subsidy program may require a mix of 3-bed, 2-baths, 2-bed, 2-baths, and 2-bed, 1-baths. So there has to be a certain unit mix for that funding program. And your entitlement, you put yourself in a box because the developer has to go with that entitlement. So they then, once they get everything squared away and they close, they have to then apply for permanent financing. So that's just kind of a basic, I don't want to keep going on and on and on, but that's kind of a basic breakdown of the difference.
I'm sure we're going to have a bunch more questions about this.
You brought up the word capital stack. So at the beginning, in order to do the development, what does that capital stack look like? Is there usually some type of bank debt and then government subsidies and then some stuff from the county? And that, like, can you give us an example of, like, what that looks like before they roll it over into perm financing?
Yeah. So let's say they get awarded the tax credits. So let's say the project cost is, let's say $70 million for the total project costs. Like there's one in Santa Clara that we just did the grand opening on not too long ago. And so it was 70, let's say the 70 million. Now the city of Santa Clara, the city actually provided funding for the site. So sometimes you can get money from the city, depending on if the city has money or not. They'll actually work with you. And so what happens is you apply first for the tax credits. That's about 30% of your cost to build it. Those tax credits, once you get awarded, you have to then approach a tax credit investor, like Citibank, Chase Bank, JP Morgan, Citi. those are big because they want to lower their
They want
liability.
the tax credits, yeah.
And also the other thing too is that they also have what's called the CRE requirement. They have the CRA, they have the Community Reinvestment Act. So when a bank does business in a certain city or certain area, they have to commit a certain dollar amount to community reinvesting. Now, investing in tax credits is the way they do that. And so the tax credit investor is the one that takes the tax cut for the next 30 years because the project is affordable and it has a deed restriction in place for, let's say, 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
So sometimes we'll get away with, like, the city will, let's say they do a request for a proposal, an RFP, which we don't really do those. The city will have a piece of land that they want a developer to do a ground lease. So the city will donate the land. The developer will still apply for all the tax credits. They'll apply for the funding, like for, we're trying to do one in Half Moon Bay that ended up not really working, but we were trying to do one for workforce housing through USDA that would apply for people that work out there in the farms so they can get housing over there. So there's different ones. There's some for veterans. You just have to, that's what the developer, they have a whole team of people that is scrubbing through programs to see what's available as far as money. So you have 30% tax credits. Then you have your other subsidies. You have your pre-development funding. So let's say there's pre-development funders that will help, like nonprofits. You can apply for those. You then have other subsidies, the county subsidies, the city subsidies. You're trying to fill that entire gap. So then and the way the developer makes money, because the project doesn't cash flow positively.
Would take a development fee.
And there's the deed restriction, so they can't sell it right away, right? They've got a long-term. This is really important.
They have their development fee and then their management fee over time, and essentially it's a break even for the next 30 years. But you get all those tax benefits. So if you're a real estate guy, on $70 million, if you get to cost seg that down, and it's never, because would you get hit again if you get a cost segregation ever?
The developer, the tax credit investor. So the way the LP, the general partner and the limited partner, the way they work is the developer that puts everything together, they'll get their developer fee. And then when the project closes, 99.9% ownership will go to the tax credit investor, like Citibank. So Citibank,
really?
They'll take 99.9% ownership of the building because they're getting the tax credits for 30 years. And then the 0.01% is the developer as the limited partner. And then after 30 years, they'll get a free and clear property.
Yeah.
The way they make
it flips. Like that's what the deed restriction is. Like, okay, it flips. And now I am officially 99% or 100% owner of this. And there's no equity partners, or do these developers have to raise like equity to get it to the finish line generally on top of like the government subsidies and everything else?
Yeah, it's basically, there's no syndication, there's no other partners, there's no private capital. It's all done with subsidies, and it's all based on a point program. California, because most other states are like a good old boys where you have to know somebody to get awarded. It's kind of like a handshake behind closed doors. California is one of the only states that goes based on the point system.
Yeah.
So you have to have all these maps and layers, and they even have closed on properties that they've been through 2 rounds of getting tax credits because they didn't get awarded the tax credit. So they got to be willing to close on it and hold that property until they get
land bank it essentially and just wait.
Yeah.
That was my next question. So you said you don't even want them entitled because if people couldn't title them wrong. And so these guys, you have to unwind it. So these guys are just looking at it and not doing anything in escrow. Essentially, they're just saying, "Hey, I like it. I know it matches all these boxes, especially with you, because like all the criteria as far as where that needs to be." And they're like, "All right, sweet, we'll do it." And that's that. There is no entitlement in escrow or anything else to like mitigate risk.
Yeah, we typically don't, like most developers. I mean, there are some. There's more light tech developer, and right now California is starting to limit the amount of applications that developers can put in per year, so that we have to stretch our escrows out so long, so that way we can get, okay, we're going to close this one in 2026, or get our DD period for 6 months, so we have to line it up the right way. But what was your question, Stratt?
Jeez, I forgot. I really did. I have so many questions written down for you.
So that's kind of essentially the difference is that they become the limited partner until the deed restriction's over. Sometimes the limited partner is the city. The city agrees to donating land because at the end of the deed restriction, the city will get the property at the end of it.
Yeah.
That's how and so they have their own. You have what's it called? Not the Section 8, but it's called the Housing Authority. Housing Authority owns
We'll do this.
that they've done deals like that with too.
So how did you, Marcus, you don't just make the leap from flipping and wholesaling houses to like overseeing one of these type of developments, right? Obviously there's a progression to get there. Your role in this is it just going out and sourcing the land, bringing it to the development team, and you are the acquisitions arm for the team? Is that a good way to put it? Or how did you initially start dabbling in and getting your feet wet with this stuff? Or are you actually doing the full-blown development and as part of that right now? Like, how is that working for you?
I would say we're a support mechanism for the developer. Like we underwrite. The way I started learning about it was going to lunch with Alberto, we are now partners officially. And so me, Berto, and Mo would just get together at the office. And I kind of was the one to kind of get in front of this with the LIHTC stuff. And me and Berto, I just said, tell me, he's like, okay, well, you need to know what this map is. You need to know what this map is. It was just 6 months to 8 months of just learning sending him stuff that didn't work. He's like, that's not going to work because look at the topography of the land. It needs to be this. And it was a lot of trial and error. And Alberto, I think I was on the phone with him every day for like 6 months. So a lot of learning. And the other thing too is you can't just call one of these developers up. Like you can't just cold call them and say, I want to bring you deals. You just have to have that relationship, which myself, I could never obtain that level of trust that they've built with Alberto because he's been building that relationship since 2019. So he's got a great in with them where he's their guy. And so all we do is we will underwrite the site. I'll get a hold of the landowner or the commercial building. I'll negotiate with them. We'll try to get pricing guidance, try to get terms. I'm basically just their off-market acquisition department, essentially.
Are these typically listings that are or properties that are listed where they're just sitting there and you already know that there's a higher, better use for them? You see something that or potential that other people don't see, and so then that way you guys can become buyers for it? Or are you specifically going out like we do and say, okay, I want a single family house that's this old with these type of things, except you're layering that over land deals with the zoning and then reaching out to the owners directly? Or is it both?
It's kind of both. I don't handle anything that's part of our agreement was, I don't want to take from Alberto's plate, anything that's listed. He has a team of people that will bring him those and he will then submit LOIs on anything that's listed. Anything that's not listed, we do 50-50. So we get our 5% commission, we build that in. But I handle only off market, nothing that's on market. Now the developer things change very fast. We were very heavy. We have a lot of transactions currently in escrow in Santa Cruz County. You have to consider too, the areas that we're in have a high area median income. So that's the other thing I didn't bring up. The way that these projects base their affordable housing is because the area median income for San Mateo County, I think is like 180,000. And so based on the rents,
it can pencil.
So it could pencil because you have such high rents. There's money in those counties because there's funding programs. There's a higher need for housing. People send me land in like Turlock, California. There's no funding programs there. The area median income is like, half of that. So it just doesn't pencil because that's how the rents get based on the area median income. It's up to 70%. Now, the other thing too you asked about was how we support them. We've the marching orders change every few months. We're heavy into Pasadena right now. We're really big into San Diego County. And the sellers that I talk with are very sophisticated. I can't delegate this to one of my acquisition guys. Yeah. I'm talking about funding and everything I'm telling you, I have to be able to elevator pitch it to a seller who's when they own 10 commercial buildings in San Diego downtown, they're highly sophisticated.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we do.
And this is all Bay Area in LA. Like that median income, all it told me is that you'd have to do a different type of project, like the home key stuff, Jason, that we know about in Central California would only work here. But this sounds like it would not work whatsoever, just because Central California's median income is what, 80? I think like Fresno's is 80 or something.
Probably less than that. Yeah. And the rents are, like what Marcus was saying, the rents just don't support, it sounds like, the numbers that you have. Because once you go, because a certain percentage of the units, when you're doing that unit count in the point system, Marcus, to a certain number of those units have to be designated as affordable in order to make everything work, or no?
It's 100% affordable.
All of it is. Okay. So all of them have to be there. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. I mean, it can't work without that. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. And there's other ways too. I mean, the other thing I didn't bring up, I'll kind of bring that in, was that, there's been such a high need for housing that we have the state, we have SB 35, we have AB 2011, Assembly Bill 2011. These are all bills that help us deal with the cities, because some cities do not, when they think of affordable housing, they think of low income Section 8.
Yeah.
And like in Belmont, the city of Belmont, we have a deal closing next month. When I went to the city, it wasn't like a planning meeting. It wasn't a community meeting to determine whether or not we're doing the deal. We're doing the deal, but it was just to inform the community. And man, the questions, I won't go into detail, but a lot of people were not in support. They're like, well, are you going to make sure that the tenants, because there's already a parking issue in this city, can you only rent to tenants that don't have cars, that have to walk and use? And the guys, like our project manager, was like, no, because that would be
discriminatory.
Yeah. If you own a car, he's like, well, so it's crazy. So those Senate bills and the Assembly bills help us bypass the city, because sometimes the city will try to fight us because they don't want it. And so we have to use those bills to go past the planning commission, and we can bypass that and get to a ministerial process to get the project through the finish line.
And that's,
I think
that's
an
important point.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll go.
Are you taking equity, bro?
An important point. Let me double
down
down on this next thing. You didn't follow our rule. We're doing this Bakersfield deal too, and it's important, dude, because I just looked it up right now. Household income in Fresno, median household income for Fresno County, $67,000. The median income for an individual in Fresno County is $31,800, bro. That's crazy. That's nothing. So if you're 70% of the median household income, you're like $55,000, dude. Like, there's a lot of people that fall into that bucket out here. So it's not like what most people think affordable is. It isn't like housing homeless people. These are blue collar people that are working and just trying to make like just stuff that's a little bit more affordable, and you're not renting a 2-bedroom
and a nicer. Yeah,
it is, dude. And so it's interesting to see like how these projects can be misconstrued, because it isn't for people that are destitute and down and out. It's for all the people that are getting hit by inflation and struggling to make ends meet right now, and they're working their ass off. They're just not like making a ton of money, and that's what a lot of these projects are for, man. So I think that's an important distinction.
Yeah, we have to inform the community about that. That's one thing Berto brought up during the community meeting. Was he says, what is 70% of the area median income of San Mateo? It's like 100,000 still.
Yeah.
And so he says, well, that's he says all the people that work in your restaurants, all your city workers, even the city workers would qualify. He says these are people that are in your own community that would benefit from this. And he goes, keep in mind, the other thing is when the project goes for leasing it up, when it finally when we get a property manager in place and all that, it's almost like a lottery. I think San Jose, Santa Clara, they had, I think it was like 1,000 applications, and the project, I believe, I could be mistaken here, I think it was like 70 units. So it's almost like a lottery with how much people
to even be able to get it.
It's crazy.
So it's really needed right now for sure.
And guys, we've said this multiple times. If you know what's going on with the government, you can get in. in a lot of different facets. You can make tons of money as far as where regulations going and what is needed and what the government wants to get done. But Marcus, are you taking equity in any of these?
No, we're just taking the big commission checks right now and just kind of holding on to their coattails. And, we get invited to every year in Chicago, they have the affordable housing conference, which you either have to be a developer, like a vetted developer, or you have to be, I think the buy-in for a vendor is like 100,000. So going to those conferences, we were going to go this year, but schedules didn't line up. But next year, going to those places, meeting those people, meeting other developers. I think PacWest is the biggest light tech developer in the country right now. And I got to meet the owner at a benefit. So you get to just shake hands and just kind of get to know people, and the state controller, the state treasurer, we did fundraising for them. So just being able to meet all of I just feel like a fly on the wall at this point, just getting paid really well, and it's starting to pay off. I feel very grateful. I don't think it's something I could say I did it on my own. It was right opportunity, right relationship, and trust. Those are big. Just like a Deal Champs event. I wouldn't have met my business partner if I didn't go to an event similar to that of Deal Champs. You know what I mean?
I love how you said there was that 8-month ramp up period of just trying and failing and figuring it out and developing, like building the airplane while you're in midair, dude. It's like, I don't know exactly what we're doing. Let's just try. And just all the reps that you got at the beginning, whether it's learning how to wholesale your first deal or learning how to underwrite one of these light tech developments, that's how you start, dude. Like the process inherently, I think at a foundational level is the same. And you just sharpen your skill set over and over and over again, and then eventually you hit on something, and then you get proof of concept and you go. And I love that, dude. And we're doing some similar stuff with some of the land deals that we're doing now, and it's like we're in that process that you're talking about now. It's like, what is our qualification process? So when we put a lead in the top of our funnel, how do we disqualify the ones that don't make sense for us to look at, to take and get closer to the ones that are a better fit for our business model? And there is no, like you said, dude, you can't just, like, we're very accessible on social media, and we put a lot of this information out, and you can like get up to speed. But with this development stuff, it really is like it's who you know, it's getting your foot in the door, it's the right relationship, it's when that opportunity opens itself up, not being scared to like walk through that door and then just figure it out as you go, dude. I love it.
Yeah,
man. That's freaking awesome, bro.
Yeah. And it's just like, just like I feel like, most guys that, again, I've seen people in the industry start off as an acquisition rep for a company, and then eventually they branch off and get their own company, together. Some of them do well, some of them don't. But I feel like that's our position now with the developer. We got land, we're kind of looking at things with a different lens now. Like, okay, can we rezone this? Can we go through the process? I mean, we're seeing them do it at large scale, knowing what topography, knowing, there was there was a site a deal that got shot down last year that we had in contract because the city was pissed about one of the projects getting pushed through. The city then tried to say, well, the building you're buying over here on the other side of the city has historical value because it was built, 1930 or something. So they were trying to fight us on the historical, so we can't destroy the building. And so just kind of being able, learning from their mistakes and learning it, because they're a newer company as well. I mean, they've been around since 2009. So they're not, and they both, I think the owner, John and Paul, they started off, one of them worked for a tax credit investor. So the investor that buys the credits, he worked for them. The other one worked at BlackRock. So he was an analyst there. And so they own Manhattan real estate, and they just decided to start doing it in 2009. And so I'm just kind of thinking, man, they started in their 40s doing developments. If we can learn from them, like you said, it kind of raises your capital in the sense that, I know I can do this eventually. Just like when I started wholesaling, when I went to that conference in Phoenix, I'm like, I'm a realtor right now, but if this is providing me more capital faster and I could use the same time and effort, it's the same thing. There's just different levels,
with that ground lease, bro, is it 100-year ground lease and then the city has to renew it again? I've seen some stuff like that, to where like the city will give you a ground lease for 100 years. They'll pay for everything to be built, but then you have to go and renegotiate the ground lease later on. Is like that what that looks like when you're saying that with your deal?
Yeah, I mean, once the developer makes their at this point, I think with cities that do ground leases where they do like a request for proposal, everybody pours in, they give out their best terms, and then they were able to develop the project with the same funding sources. So the city isn't paying for the funding, you're still getting those sources. All the city did was donate the land. And then the city gets a guarantee that at the end of the deed restriction, when it unwinds, the city will get 100% ownership. Now, you could still, with those 100-year ground leases that you do with like the city, once the developer makes their development fee and they're managing the property and it's a 100-year ground lease, I honestly don't know what it looks like at the end of that ground lease. Some can be renegotiated. Some can be what's called resyndicated with a different type of tax credit. You can resyndicate that project for acquisition and rehab. Or you can just leave it be and the city gets it forever.
What do you do? What's the game plan for you right now, Marcus? So as you're kind of, it sounds like doing your core business in tandem with some of, these other larger development things, right? Do you plan on continuing to wholesale and do that stuff just to pay the bills and have that be kind of the thing that, keeps everything afloat while you're learning this, and then maybe this takes off and then you step away from this? Do you always plan on doing them in tandem together? And how do you balance those things, right? Because I think a lot of people, like, there is kind of this transitionary period where the new venture runs in parallel to the main venture for a little while, right? While we're growing legs on the new thing, right? So talk about how you're dealing with that, what that looks like for you in the future, and what the plans are when it comes to flipping.
It's very tough.
Yeah.
It's very tough. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say, yeah, it's perfect. I mean, we've gone through the shiny object syndrome. I've done the Amazon stores and all this stuff that just wasn't in line with what we're good at, which is real estate, which is wholesaling, finding off market. So we kind of, me and Mo, really put our heads together. We shut off the Amazon stuff and, provided everybody, just paid everyone back and just wanted to clear the slate with that. We decided any business that we start has to be kind of like vertically integrated with what we're already doing. And so what we're already doing with this developer, finding off market, we're using all the same tools, just a few VAs and myself, and able to do that. So I don't feel I'm the one that's solely acquiring all the off market on my own right now. I don't feel comfortable hiring somebody because I just feel like we're still in the early phases of it. And I just don't know how to automate that position yet. There's other things we're doing where the developer, so the Litech developer, that's a subsidiary of their larger real estate component because they do funding, they do lending, they have a fund, a 1030 that I guess Alberto, we're kind of in the early stages, but we kind of pitched them like, hey, a lot of these sellers that we buy properties from, they have a really low basis. They have a huge tax liability. Mm-hmm. One of the main reasons why they don't want to sell because they don't want a 1031 or have to scramble and find something.
Yeah.
So we said, what if you guys opened up your fund and figured out a way for them to 1031 into the fund?
Into that, yeah.
So that way you buy the property, the capital comes right back to you, and you offer them a reasonable, so 10%. And so we tell them, hey, you don't have to deal with 10, mainly landowners. My approach to them is, listen, this land is not bringing you any income.
It's not generating any income anyways. Yeah.
If you're selling it for top dollar and we have a built-in exit strategy, so that's something we just started doing. And, we're going to get some points on the money that we bring in. So that's another avenue of income. We just started our construction company with a licensed commercial contractor that Mo is really good friends with. So because the developer came to us and said, hey, there's certain jobs that their construction company just doesn't have the ability to facilitate, like doing tenant improvements on the commercial bottom of their development. So the tenant wants to do all these improvements. There's money put aside for it, but they just sub it out. And Alberto kind of has a say in who gets those jobs. Not really a say, but he kind of will put opportunities in front of us
Has
and
some
say,
influence. Yeah.
we'll have some influence to provide you at least an opportunity, a good shot at it. So we have a couple bids out for San Diego sites. Our construction company just being an assistance to them in that aspect. So just the construction, the 1031, the development, the wholesaling and flipping. I'll be honest, my stance was eventually to shut it off and just do what we're doing here. But Mo loves it. I mean, I do too, but Mo's like, dude, like, this is just the best. I mean, this is how we can cherry pick our rentals. This is how we can just source deals without having to rely on anyone else. And we're so good at it. I think in our REI SIFT, we have close to 2 million records that we've accrued in our REI. I think REI, they told us that we're like the top 5 of record holders, like of having amount of property
data. Yeah.
So we have some, So I think keeping them all right now, and just those are our main focus, not getting too out of focus, shiny object syndrome. That's kind of what our next 10 years is looking like.
Love it.
How many of these do you have in escrow?
We have about 30 million worth. I think it was across 4 projects, one of them being close to 19 million. And our goal this year is to be closer to 100 million. With the 1031 aspect, I can get a lot more sellers to say yes. So I think that is our goal this year, is 100 million in off-market acquisitions. So far, we have a little over 30.
And these are much longer escrows, right? Like, I mean, we're talking about, what's an average escrow period? Is it 6 months, 12 months, or is it different?
Typically the closing timeline, and again, we're the developer. Most developers will tell the seller that they want DD all the way through entitlements.
Yeah.
We don't require that. Our DD period is typically 6 months, 12-month close after that. Depending on what market we're in, about 18 months, I'd say.
Yeah.
That's insane. So you get 5% yourself, or you and Alberto split that?
We split that.
Yeah.
So
still, though, 5 points on 100 million, 2.5 points on 100 million. It's not.
Yeah, it's just building our pipeline out. Yeah. With that, with stuff taking that long to close, you've got to have just a full pipeline. So it makes sense to have 100 million, because you're going to have just big chunks of this closing at different stages at different times. So
yeah,
damn, dude, that's wild.
I think our first closing with them, like after a year and a half of just finding deals, going through all that, like I said, our first deal's closing in about 3 weeks. So, you got to be, I wouldn't say that this is the type of thing that you want to start off with, because
the patience behind you,
bro. Time to get paid.
The patience.
A long time. But and some deals die. There's some deals where there's parcel issues. There's things that come up. There's contamination on the site. Just something. Coastal permits can take forever. So yeah, I think that it's a long play, but that's kind of our pay, that when we get those under contract, that's kind of our payout. It's a big payday.
That's insane. So you've been doing this for 2-3 years?
About 2 years now. Officially July of 2023, when we got our new office, we designated a room just for Alberto and kind of shook hands and created an LLC together, everything. So I'd say about a year and a half officially together with Alberto.
That's insane, because most people don't have that type of wherewithal to be that patient, to go learn it, not have any fruition for essentially 2 years, and then just keep grinding at it, knowing that something's going to come at the end.
Yeah, I would say that I wouldn't have this kind of patience when I just started. Like, people getting started in wholesaling, it's faster. It's it's kind of like the quick money, but this is the long-term play. Yeah, I would say it doesn't feel like it's been about 18 months or so. It feels a lot shorter. But when they're in escrow, Alberto handles everything with communicate. There's no management of the file. We just keep doing our fix and flips and wholesales, and then, this is coming up for close, so you just kind of putting in the work now to see it 18 months later, 2 years later.
That's the other value of like having the transactional business with shorter conversion cycles.
Exactly.
You just get the stuff that comes in, you get quick rips from the wholesales and the flips to pay all your bills and stuff like that, while we wait for the pipeline on some of these larger ones. to fill up and then close out, dude. So
Yeah.
dude, that's crazy.
I know you guys are doing your own versions of that too. I mean, I know we talked about you have you have a conversion from a hotel or a motel that's getting turned into multifamily, Jason. Is that right? You have like things.
Yeah, we're working on that one. That one's taking forever. We're doing a 78 acre project out in Bakersfield where we're not doing like any type of affordable anything like you are doing. This is all like a portion of it is getting carved off for multifamily, and then we have a 65 acre portion where we're doing the entitlements, creating lots, and then selling that to a builder. So that's been a big thing. I don't know if you and I have talked about that. When we get together next time, I'm going to have to fill you in. That was a monster deal for us, and so that's really opened my eyes up for doing stuff like that too. And it's just development, but in just a little bit of a different lane. You know what I mean? And we know that housing is a problem in California. We know that with all the things that are going on, Central California still remains one of, from California standards anyways, even though for those of us that are from here, it doesn't feel affordable. It's still the most affordable part of California that you can live in. And when you've got all of these other things happening in LA and the Bay Area, dude, people will still continue to come here because you can still buy a house in the Valley for under $400,000 or close to $400,000 brand new. So yeah, dude, we got lots of cool stuff going on.
Yeah, the Bakersfield is almost like it's the equivalent of the Central Valley to the Altamont in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
You know, on the other side of that grapevine, you have LA, and people that can't afford to live there, they're going to come buy a house in Bakersfield. So yeah, that's a big project. Wow, congrats. Yeah. Did the seller carry a note on the deal for you, or how'd you guys structure the financing?
No, we just ended up having to close on it. So I have a partner on that one. He sourced the deal. I raised the money for it. And it ended up is just one of those things, dude, where it was right place, right time. We had to take a risk and pull the trigger on something, but we got a great deal on it. And it's materialized very, very fast. We actually just put another 100 acres not too far down the road under contract too. So it's like, it's interesting once you get momentum on these deals, how new opportunities start to present themselves. These new doors start to open up. And it's like, once you see this thing, it's hard to unsee it. And dude, it's interesting. It's very interesting and exciting, and exactly what you're doing with this LIHTC stuff. We're balancing that with our core business, trying to keep that going because we're having success in that. And my thing right now is how do we grow the team out in a way where Jason's time can be pulled out of the main transactional flipping and wholesaling business and spent more time doing some of these larger deals while this is still happening on the back end. So it's like, I know, Scott and some of our guys over there. So I'm really trying to turn into the type of business leader that can develop the talent required to replace me from that part of the business. So my time can be spent putting some of these larger deals together, man. So we're in similar spots, man.
That's awesome, man. And I know you guys have a really good, you guys have I think it's your wife and it's also a VA or two VAs that manage your whole portfolio, your residential.
Yeah, we've got, not including me, 14 team members now. So half of them are in the Philippines and the other half are here in Fresno. And so we do management in-house. We do all the acquisition, sales, operations, project management in-house. We've done a good job the last couple of years of systematizing and building this stuff out. And that's been my goal, dude, to do exactly what we're talking about. Just have some time to focus. I'm way more excited about doing this than I am about flipping and wholesaling. This is always good. And I think for us anyways, I don't have any plans on turning this off anytime soon. I think we can run them next to each other while both are happening. I just want to spend more of my time on the bigger stuff.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's really good. And that's the other thing too, is that your coaching program, you guys putting on the Deal Champs events. Like, I don't know, man, you guys have so much. I had to shut off my coaching program. I just couldn't deal with having that other lever and having the weekly calls. I love it. I love helping people. People call me to this day, and old students. I think one of my students is in your program, which is it's Jaime. He's a younger guy.
Maldonado.
Yeah. He just messaged me recently. He still keeps me updated. He says, "Yeah, man, I turned on this marketing channel. It's giving me a 4x ROI on it. I raised my average deal size by 10,000. I'm trying to do this, so it still keeps me up there. I'm like, dude, you're still killing it, man. So, I'm just glad to see that you guys are really putting a lot of effort into educating people and putting on these events because, you might you're meeting more opportunity for everybody, So I want to give you guys props for that, man. I'm really glad that you guys are putting those events on, and we're glad to support you in any capacity when you guys do have them.
Appreciate you,
And
bro.
speaking
you
of
guys
which,
always been great. Yeah.
April 3rd and 4th, we have the Deal Champ Summit coming up. You better be there, bro. We'd love to have you there.
We'll be there.
We'd love to have you there as a VIP guest.
Yeah. Is it going to be at the same at the casino?
Yeah, we're renting out the casino again. It's going to be bigger and better. I promise people fire dancers. We are going to get fire dancers.
Hey, man, as long as the VIP has a portion of going golfing,
we're not doing that again, bro. Me and Jason were fucking toast.
Yeah.
I was gassed.
We'll do our own golf with you, bro, for sure. We'll figure out another day to take you out after we haven't spent 3 days putting an event on, for sure.
Yeah,
dude, it should be fun. It should be a good one, dude. 4th and 5th, not 3rd and 4th. April 4th and 5th. Yeah.
April 4th and 5th.
4th and 5th.
Yeah.
Just block out the first week of April. Come to the Deal Champ Summit.
Hell yeah.
All right, bro. You have any final words for the people, Marcus?
I don't think so, man. I think we covered everything. So just really appreciate you guys having me on. Appreciate the opportunity.
Of course, bro. Thank you for coming on such short notice. I had to call you.
Yeah, thanks for the
walk at
education,
like
bro.
1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Of course, man. Anytime for you guys.
All right, guys. Do not forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you next week. And Dean will be back with his brand new baby.
All right, guys.
Appreciate it.